Mystical adventures, explosive action, and the highly anticipated sixth installment of an iconic franchise. Get ready, gamers! 2025's biggest releases are sure to make your jaw drop. For fans of magic, folklore, and completely original stories, Compulsion Games' South of Midnight is definitely one of the most exciting new releases of 2025. Simply put, it's an action-adventure game set in the American Deep South, as viewed through the haze of a fever dream. This story follows a young woman named Hazel, whose life is transformed after a hurricane hits her hometown. Hazel's life is upended, but things get even stranger when she unlocks her inner abilities and becomes a magic-wielding being known as a Weaver. As Hazel tries to find her mom and protect her town, players will lead her through a wildly imaginative journey to all kinds of mystical settings. They'll encounter strange creatures and even stranger allies, and they'll need to unlock new powers and weapons if they want to fight through to see another day.
If you ring that bell, heed my skedaddle.
You better not skedaddle.
The combat system has been noted as feeling reminiscent of other 3D action games, like God of War. But South of Midnight spices up the tried-and-true formula with a visual style and storytelling approach that's utterly unique. The game debuts on April 8th. Doom: The Dark Ages looks to be exactly what the title promises. The game has all the fast-paced, hyper-violent gunplay that fans have come to know and love, but now the entire ordeal is dripping with a medieval aesthetic. The Doomslayer is once again warring his way through the forces of hell, but this time we get to see how he forged his legend in fire. If you're a sucker for how much the recent Doom games have built upon the series' mythology, then it looks like this game will give you everything you want and so much more. Players will face down demons with a new array of weapons, including a throwable shield with serrated edges. If you thought Earth's Dark Ages were grim, wait until you step into Hell's. Fans of Devil May Cry and Final Fantasy have been looking forward to Lost Souls Aside for quite some time. The game was announced over 9 years ago when its then solo developer Yang Bing dropped a trailer showcasing his concept for the game using stock assets. Now, Lost Soul Aside is set to release on May 30th. The game follows a rebel named Kaiser, whose ongoing fight against a corrupt emperor is interrupted when meteors begin raining from the sky. The entire world is changed after the meteor shower, and Kaiser finds himself wielding a shape-shifting weapon in a world full of foes he could never have imagined. Lost Soul Aside pairs a dramatic high-fantasy story with frantic combat that you can tailor to your own sense of style. It's not every day that we get an indie action RPG that looks this polished, and after nearly a decade of waiting, gamers are dying to get their hands on this one. Metal Gear Solid is another beloved video game franchise that's getting a new release in 2025. We aren't getting a fresh story, but we are getting a sharp-looking remake of one of the franchise's most popular games. 2004's Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater was an instant classic and is roundly considered to be one of the best video games of all time.
You're the only one capable of pulling this off.
Metal Gear Solid Delta is a full remake of that landmark title. Aside from the eye-popping look of Snake Eater rendered in Unreal 5, there's another major reason why gamers are excited for the remake. It also features completely new controls, so newcomers can now experience the classic story without the quirks that come with 2000s-era stealth controls. For the deeply nostalgic, the original control scheme will remain an option, so your Delta experience can be as faithful to Snake Eater as you want it to be. The developers have promised that, although the experience as a whole has gotten a facelift, players who love the original don't have to worry about the game's bonkers story and mission structure changing too much. This is the same classic Snake Eater, only more. Metal Gear Solid Delta arrives on August 28th. If you like sci-fi mysteries and hack-and-slash games, then Hell is Us needs to be on your radar. From developer Rogue Factor, the game is set in Hideo, a fictional country being torn apart by civil war. Players step into the shoes of Remy, a man who's returned to Hideo hoping to find clues that might lead him to his missing parents. Along the way, Remy also encounters strange supernatural creatures and finds himself fighting for his life. Battling the dangerous creatures that roam Hideo is only half of the challenge in Hell is Us. The game also immerses players by making them explore the country without map markers, quest objectives, or any real guides whatsoever, much like the Lands Between in Elden Ring. Hidea's semi-open world is filled with environmental hints and storytelling cues.
We were both wrong. They live inside our heads.
The NPCs that Remy meets will be full of useful information, but players might need to jot it down for themselves. When it comes to navigating the game and solving the mystery at its core, you're really on your own. Hell Is Us offers an incredibly entrancing experience and a dark, mature story, as well as an addictive melee combat system that's sure to please fans of survival RPGs. The game is slated to arrive on September 4th. If you like looting and shooting, then you're probably already looking forward to Borderlands 4, which arrives on September 23rd. In this latest addition to the series, Vault Hunters will be exploring a new planet, Kairos, as well as squaring off against the Timekeeper, a villainous would-be authoritarian trying to bring order to the world. Unlike Borderlands 3, which saw players hopping between worlds, the new game features one expansive and completely open planet for players to explore. Gearbox Software CEO Randy Pitchford said in an interview with GameSpot, "In Borderlands 4, everything you're seeing is playable space that you can get to and reach without a load time." Pitchford also emphasized the amount of handcrafted details that populate the game's world, saying that the developers tried to focus on making sure that every new location offered great options for the franchise's hectic combat. Dune has one of the most iconic settings in all of science fiction, and in 2025, you'll be able to live there yourself. With Dune Awakening, Funcom is promising a massive survival experience set in the deserts of Arrakis.
In every danger, there is opportunity.
Set for a May 20th release, Dune Awakening is one part survival game and one part MMO. Hundreds of players all coexist on the desert sands, where death is only ever a moment away. The game takes place in an alternate version of the Dune timeline, in which the Fremen seemingly don't exist. Paul Atreides, the San al-Gaib, was never born, and war between the Atreides family and the Harkonnens has spread across the planet.
But I see a narrow way, a path that might have been.
After taking care of basic needs, players will be able to build bases, construct ornithopters, and craft powerful new weapons, all of which will be used to fight to the top of Arrakis' power hierarchy. You can finally explore all the nooks and crannies of Frank Herbert's beloved world, and you can even bring a friend along for the ride. Ghost of Tsushima was a samurai game many of us have been dreaming of for years. It had a massive open world to explore, multiple fighting styles to master, and an array of weapons and gadgets that kept combat encounters feeling fresh and exciting. Sucker Punch created a classic, and in September 2024, the developer revealed its plans for a Tsushima successor. While we still don't have an official release date, we do know that Ghost of Yotei will be debuting sometime in 2025. In a move that probably won't surprise anyone who played through the final moments of Tsushima, Sucker Punch has decided to tell a completely new story with the sequel. In fact, Yotei is set 300 years after the events of the previous game, and it takes place in a different region of Japan. Our lead character is a warrior named Atsu. We don't have many details about her story just yet, but we do know that she's destined to become as powerful of a fighter as Jin Sakai was in the first game. Thanks to its unparalleled visuals and next-level combat, Ghost of Tsushima has been hailed one of the best PlayStation 4 games of all time, and based on what we've seen so far, Yotei looks ready to carry on that legacy on the PlayStation 5. It's always a big deal when Hideo Kojima releases a new game, and the hype for Death Stranding 2 on the beach backs that up. From what we know about it, the sequel looks ready to pick up where the bonkers story of the first game left on and hit the ground running. The trailers are packed with hints and Easter eggs that fans have been picking apart since 2022, and absolutely no one can guess where the plot is going to go next. Kojima also hasn't revealed much about the actual gameplay of Death Stranding 2, but it's safe to assume that the many package delivery mechanics from the first game will make a return. As of early March 2025, we don't know the official release date of Death Stranding 2. As recently as September 2024, Kojima insisted that the game will be released in 2025. Needless to say, fans are keeping an eye on his social media profiles for more news. We all know how this story ends, sort of. Back in 2021, we learned that former Uncharted creative director Amy Hennig will be working with Skydance New Media and Marvel Games on a narrative-focused game set in the Marvel Universe. Then in 2022, we got a first look at where their collaboration took them. As the name implies, Marvel 1943 Rise of Hydra is an action game set in the midst of World War II. The game features Captain America and Black Panther working alongside Howling Commandos member Gabriel Jones and Wakandan spy Nana Lee to fight back against Axis forces. The Nazis have occupied Paris, and our heroes have to put their heads and super abilities together to force them out of the city and ultimately liberate the rest of France.
By my count, that makes 2 super soldiers loose in Paris.
3, counting you.
And that's 2 too many.
Of course, we already know that Cap will end up on ice and Hydra will embed itself within S.H.I.E.L.D. for decades to come. But the game is still going to include all sorts of fun details for Marvel fans and total newcomers alike. We haven't seen much of the game since Skydance gave us the cinematic reveal trailer, but we should expect marketing to ramp up as its 2025 release gets closer. GTA 6 isn't just the most anticipated game of 2025, it's one of the most anticipated games of all time. The game's reveal trailer broke the internet, bringing in millions of excited viewers in a matter of hours. Thanks to games like Red Dead Redemption 2 and GTA Online, Rockstar's reputation is rock solid, and the entire gaming world is waiting with bated breath to see the developer's biggest game yet. As of early March 2025, we don't have a specific release date for GTA 6 nailed down, but the company has repeatedly promised that the game will be out sometime in 2025. Like the last game, GTA 6 features multiple protagonists, a Bonnie and Clyde-style duo named Lucia, and if the leaks are to be believed, Jason. But Rockstar hasn't revealed how character swapping will work this time around. The game is going back to the classic GTA setting of Vice City, though this time the city is going to be significantly larger and likely filled with a mind-boggling amount of detail. GTA 5 has remained incredibly popular more than a decade after its release, and there's no doubt that Rockstar's follow-up game is aiming for an even higher level of longevity and acclaim.